What's wrong with the system that produces our food is, first and foremost, it's a negative production system where it uses more resources than it produces. It uses 10 units of energy to produce 1 unit of food as energy. It's a system whose only aim and measure of productivity is how many people you get rid of, only labor productivity. It's wasteful of very scarce land, fertile soil, water, and it pushes biodiversity to extinction because with chemical inputs, you have to have monocultures. It's a system that has reduced our diet from 8,500 species of plants to about 8 globally traded commodities, shrinking even more with the rise of GMOs. And what's wrong with that food system today is it is now getting controlled by 5 corporations that control the seed and 5 corporations that control the food. Everything that's called an advanced technology so far in agriculture was advanced for war. It was advanced to kill. Pesticides kill. Nitrogen fertilizers kill soil organisms. Herbicides kill. Agent Orange has no place in agriculture, but they're spraying Agent Orange on the farms of United States, where superweeds have emerged as a result of Roundup-resistant crops. Even genetically engineered crops are a result of a war technology, gene guns, biological warfare by infecting plant cancer. We need advancement in terms of how the web of life works, and we need advancement in terms of how the food we produce is suited to our body, which means it must be nutritionally balanced and it must be as close to the fabric of life as possible. The big shifts that we need in a transition to an agriculture and food system that protects the planet and gives us better food is to link more closely the production of food and the eating of food. The eating of food means a change in diet. We are constantly made to believe that the poor can only afford cheap food, but that cheap is very costly because it's been subsidized hugely. The cheapest food is what grows closest to home, what is ecologically produced with low external inputs, and is not expensive in terms of the health costs that it generates. So we need good food everywhere, and the earth has the capacity to produce it. People have the capacity to produce it, and good food for all must be the big transition. Eating is not a passive act. Eating is a political act. Eating is an agricultural act. And the more we become conscious and the more we act to link to those who produce and make sure the farmer who's being pushed out of a livelihood has a market, while we who are being pushed out of having access to good food have a producer, those partnerships are where citizens can act. But this means being public citizens, conscious citizens, earth citizens. Giant corporations don't have the capacity to look after that particular patch of soil and earth, those seeds, the ecosystem, and the biodiversity of that ecosystem. So that has to be local. So seed must be local. Decisions must be as close to home as possible. International agencies, at the level of the United Nations or whatever, have an obligation to recognize the local power, but not impose. That is why from the day the World Trade Organization was planned, bringing in intellectual property rights on seed, bringing in free trade in agriculture, I have been resisting it because just a very wrong model, because it has introduced corporate rule and we have seen what it's done. It's pushed more than 300,000 Indian farmers to suicide. It has taken an India that was eating food to pushing every 4th Indian to hunger and every 2nd Indian child to severe malnutrition. This is not a food system. Corporations can generate chemicals that kill. People create food systems with care. "28% food comes from those giant monocultures. Most of it is not feeding people. It's going for biofuel, high fructose corn syrup, animal feed, etc. The balance between the rights of all other species and the rights of humans comes from our embedding ourselves in the ecosystem and working with the multifunctional agriculture that is about care for the earth and care for ourselves. We practice that in Navdanya, the movement I've started, and we get more food per acre, even for human beings. That is the key issue, that the more you are embedded in the earth's fabric, the more the earth is providing for us. The idea that we've got to be conquerors and masters and brutalizers of the earth to provide more food for humans is an idea whose time is over. That is a corporate patriarchal idea, and everywhere it is failing. "1984 was my wake-up call that agriculture had gone very wrong. Bhopal, a gas leaked from a pesticide plant, 3,000 people dead in an instant, 30,000 dead since then. Punjab, the land of the Green Revolution, given a Nobel Peace Prize for Norman Borlaug, rose in violence, became a war zone. There was no peace in 1984. That's when I did my book and did research for the United Nations University on what is this thing called the Green Revolution. And then because of that work, I started to get called. 87 is when the corporations are sitting at a meeting on biotechnology and they lay out their plan. We need to genetically engineer seeds in order to own them through patents, and we need a global treaty in the GATT, which became WTO, to own life and impose this on all the world. That's the day I decided I was going to spend the rest of my life saving seeds, promoting ecological agriculture, and countering every lie that is told by corporations. I think we are heading in two possible directions. One direction is where independent people, free people, democratic people are shaping a food system that works both for the planet and for people. It's producing more food, better food, generating more livelihoods, solving the climate problem, bringing back biodiversity. But you have another system, beginning with the Green Revolution, leading on to GMOs, reaching the ultimate aspects of fascism and control through distorting our government policy, stealing our democracy, and trying to prevent us from growing the good food system. The European seed law is a perfect example of that kind of instrument of dictatorship. I think the Friends of the Earth very name says you're friends of the earth, not the enemies of the earth. And I think whether it comes to the issue of GMOs or it comes to fighting free trade treaties, Friends of the Earth has had a strong role. I remember when the US was suing Europe on the GMO bans, I launched a campaign called the Citizens on GMOs in WTO, and Friends of the Earth was a very important partner, and we were able to collect 30 million signatures and take them to the WTO, which is why the ruling did not go in favor of the United States. I think the most important thing about the world's poor people getting enough protein is to ensure that all sources of protein are available. At least in my country, most of us are vegetarian. Our protein source, the pulses, has been driven out by a monoculture green revolution focusing on just wheat and rice. We are today importing pulses. We are today importing oil seeds. So the first step in bringing adequate protein into the diet is growing the protein. The second step is a diversification in the diet, which can only happen on the basis of biodiversity in our gardens and our farms. And the third very important thing is a deliberate food and nutritional literacy has been created worldwide. We need to overcome that illiteracy and know more about what we eat, know more about where the food comes from, and celebrate food as the ultimate gift of life.
Friends of the Earth. The environmental group Friends of the Earth.
Friends of the Earth.
Friends of the Earth are actually quite good at getting laws passed.